Let me tell you something before last year. I never thought my wife would be standing in our own front yard, holding her ground against humiliation so raw it could strip the paint off your soul. But there she was, spine straight as a board, facing off against our HOA president like she was staring down a petty tyrant, phone pointed right at her, as if she'd caught a criminal red-handed. For months, my wife Sarah is tougher than anyone give her credit for, just let it all slide. Did her best to keep the peace, but that morning when she finally shouted right there in the middle of the street that she'd call the real police if this circus didn't stop, well, I saw a shift. Her eyes didn't flinch anymore, her voice didn't quiver, and I knew justice was coming for whoever kept poking the bear. 8 months before that, we'd moved to Pine Valley, dreaming of quiet mornings and the kind of neighborly waves you see in commercials. I'm David Miller, city accountant, and my wife, Sarah, she holds a government job nobody in the neighborhood really knows about. Let's just say she can blend in when she wants to, but folks had no idea her badge held more authority than just about anyone in that zip code. For a while, things were good, minus a few passive-aggressive HOA emails about lawn height and recycling bins left out an extra day. But everything went south the moment Margaret Williams, our 40-something, always irritated HOA president, decided to make us her pet project. See, sometimes Sarah would drive home in her patrol car after a night shift, just for a quick change and a drop off her gear. Cops aren't supposed to keep their cars overnight, but it's standard to pull in for a few minutes at home, get out of uniform, and disappear back into normal life. I figured a police car in the driveway might even scare off anyone with sticky fingers, but not Margaret. That Monday morning, Margaret stormed up to our door, purple blouse wrinkled, clipboard in hand, acting like she was about to shut down a crime syndicate. She demanded to know why a commercial vehicle was parked at our house and tried to hit us with some Section 4.3 violation like she was the sheriff. I explained it was temporary, just Sarah getting her things, never more than 15 minutes, but Margaret wasn't having itch rules or rules. She insisted, waving a $50 fine in my face and promising it'd turn to $200 if we kept breaking the law. But it wasn't just one finio, no. Margaret took her job as neighborhood watchdog to the next level, starting what she called enhanced monitoring of our house. Every time Sarah's patrol car pulled in, Margaret would pop out from behind a bush, snapping photos from every angle, sending out neighborhood-wide emails titled, "Urgent Violation Immediate Action Required," like we'd build a meth lab. My inbox blew up with time-stamped surveillance, 7:42 a.m. Commercial vehicle spotted, 7:58 a.m. Vehicle still present, 8:05 a.m. Vehicle gone after 23 minutes. You get the idea. She even started bringing a stopwatch, lurking behind rose bushes, clocking Sarah like she was competing in the 400-meter dash. It all boiled over at the next HOA meeting. Margaret rolled in with color photos, timelines, even a street map with our house circled in red. She announced to the room, before Mr. Miller speaks, "I want you all to see evidence of ongoing violations." She sounded like she was about to indict us on national TV. I tried to keep my cool and explained, "My wife works for law enforcement. This is a perfectly legal, temporary stop, never more than 30 minutes, but Margaret cut me off, making sure everyone heard. The law doesn't play favorites, Mr. Miller. If you want special privileges, maybe you should move somewhere else." The snickers from the peanut gallery told me we were alone on this one. And then, like every HOA story gone off the rails, the gossip started. Margaret spun tales about us having secret deals with the police, getting out of tickets, or that Sarah was some kind of fake officer running a scam. Next thing I knew, even sweet Mrs. Rodriguez from next door was quietly asking if we were in trouble and if she should worry about her grandkids. Sarah, ever the diplomat, told me to give Margaret a way out. Maybe, just maybe, she'd back off if she felt hurt. But Margaret doubled down. She called Sarah's department, filed a formal complaint about misuse of public property, demanded an investigation. Sarah came home from work one day, her face drawn. "You won't believe the Izumi captain had to call me in because our neighbor filed an official complaint." I had to explain why Margaret's stalking me and timing my bathroom breaks. That was it. Sarah was done playing nice. Margaret didn't let up. She started tracking Sarah's every move when the car showed up, how long it stayed, even what Sarah was wearing. Then she put up her own security camera, pointed straight at our driveway, recording everything. Whenever we came or went, she'd wave at the camera, sometimes raising her phone to snap more photos like we were living in some dystopian reality show. The line finally broke when Margaret began tailing Sarah's patrol car in her own sedan like a bad detective in an even worse TV drama. Sarah slammed the door one night. "This is harassment. This is stalking. Enough is enough." The final straw came one Saturday morning. Sarah, coming off a brutal 12-hour shift, wanted nothing more than to get her gym bag and change into sweatpants. Margaret showed up, phone in hand, screaming about calling the real police, her voice so loud it had folks peeking out from their windows. Sarah, dead tired but composed, asked for 5 minutes. "No 5 minutes. No more excuses," Margaret screeched, now performing for half the block, vowing to make sure everyone knows what kind of people you really are. She had no clue who she'd just picked a fight with. That night, over cold coffee, Sarah looked at me with a glint I hadn't seen in months. "David, it's time to stop handling this the nice way." I recognized that look. She was in case-building mode, and she didn't lose cases. "I'm going to investigate the HOA, just like I'd investigate any abuse of authority." Sarah wasn't just any cop 15 years in law enforcement, trained in financial crimes. She knew how to find skeletons in the closet. Within days, she tore through the HOA bylaws, found Margaret had changed rules without a community vote illegal under state law. A little more digging revealed Margaret had been bounced from 2 previous communities for overzealous enforcement, and even settled a harassment lawsuit. I started quietly talking to neighbors. Turns out, Margaret had fined Mrs. Rodriguez $300 when her son's car broke down overnight. The Pattersons fined for having roses too tall. The Morrisons cited for hanging laundry outside after hours. All these rules Margaret had made up or changed on her own. Nobody remembered voting for any of it, but folks were too tired or scared to fight, so they just paid. Sarah's big breakthrough came with the financial records. She legally demanded to see the books Margaret couldn't refuse without looking even more suspicious. The numbers didn't lie. Over 15 grand in fines collected in 8 months, almost all funneled into Margaret's personal account, not the HOA fund. Worse yet, Margaret wasn't reporting a dime of it to the IRS. Classic tax evasion. Armed with proof, Sarah called the county prosecutor, prepared a full report, but decided to give Margaret one last shot to come clean at the next HOA meeting. "Let her try something," Sarah said with a smile that could chill wine. "We have everything we need." Word spread. That November, the meeting room was packed. Margaret opened, strutting like a peacock, ready to roast us in front of everyone. I stood up, briefcase in hand, and asked, "How many of you actually read the new bylaws or remember voting on them?" Only a few hands went up. Nobody recalled voting on anything. Margaret, red-faced, insisted she had emergency authority to make changes, but people were starting to murmur. That's when Sarah stood cool as ice, badge out, "Actually, Mrs. Williams, that's not how California law works." When she revealed she was the county sheriff and explained Margaret's illegal rule changes, the room went dead quiet. Then came the bombshell. Sarah laid out the proof of fraud, tax evasion, and abuse of authority, handing out copies of Margaret's financial trail. Neighbors, shocked, started sharing their own stories. Mrs. Rodriguez, trembling, asked, "So the money I paid, it didn't go to fix the playground?" "No, ma'am," Sarah answered. "It went straight into Mrs. Williams' pocket." The room erupted. Margaret tried to shout us down, but missed her. Patterson, respected by everyone, stood up and called her out for theft. The crowd turned, grievances poured out, and the mood flipped from confusion to outrage. Margaret's last defense was bluster, but Sarah calmly presented a court order suspending her from all HOA duties: fraud, tax evasion, breach of trust. Margaret's face drained of color as reality set in. She tried to threaten Sarah. "Bad idea. Any further threats to law enforcement will be reported as felonies," Sarah replied, ice cold. Margaret left the meeting in silence, her reign over. 3 months later, Pine Valley felt like a new place. Margaret moved away, got hit with probation and restitution, and was banned from HOA roles for life. The community held forums, elected Mr. Patterson as president, and set up a board with real checks and balances. All big decisions required a community vote. Sarah started a free program teaching folks their homeowner rights. Attendance boomed. Mrs. Rodriguez, once just a victim, became HOA secretary. We even created a community justice fund to help anyone facing future HOA abuse. Our story made the local news, and Sarah ended up testifying for new state laws mandating HOA audits and limiting board power. The biggest lesson? Real justice isn't just removing one corrupt person, it's building a place where no one can abuse power again. Every new neighbor gets a handbook, your rights and responsibilities in community associations written by a sheriff who proved that the law and a united community are the best defense against injustice. So tell me, if you'd lived here, would you have stood up or kept your head down? Where do you draw the line between order and oppression in your own backyard? I'd love to hear how you'd handle it. Drop a comment below. Let's talk about what real justice looks like, not just in HOAs, but everywhere.